Hello YouTube, this is RaPsCaLLion. Today I bring you my first automated farm design. This is a budded pumpkin and melon farm, pumpkin or melon farm. It's not a new design by any means. There's a few of these on YouTube already, but I've made mine a little bit more space efficient and a little bit more production efficient as well, and a lot less resource heavy. There's no observers, there's no comparators in this design, so you can build this thing pretty much right away after you start your game. Your highest cost is going to be maybe some iron if you want to use a bunch of hoppers, but you could also use a minecart collection system below that, and you'd only need iron for the one hopper. Do need a bit of slime and an immovable block and some redstone, but other than that, this is a really a simple farm to create, and it produces a lot of melons or a lot of pumpkins or a lot of both. So let's see how this works. This is all there is to it here. You've got a budded piston just at the back, which is budded by this redstone dust line on top of it here. You're only using one dust per slice, and it's based on this budded piston resetting the bud every time this triggers. So this piston's budded right now. As soon as a pumpkin grows, it'll break it. It'll trigger this bud, which resets this one. So here, like so, pushes the pumpkin into the lowered farmland block and picked up by the hopper. So you can go pretty fast with this. There is a chance that a pumpkin can grow in the same tick that the piston is retracting. So if I just move my cursor down onto the land, you'll see that that can happen, and this will block up. That's why you don't want to do this just for one slice. It's not efficient just to do it for one slice with one block available for growth anyway. You want to chain a bunch of these things together. That way, if one of these grows in the same tick as the piston's retracting, the next pumpkin that grows down the line re-triggers the whole system and it'll break that block. So let's look at a whole chain of these things together. You can go for as long as you can get signal strength, so 15 slices, and I'll show you how to expand it longer than that as well. But same design, all chained together, just the pistons. So this line buds every one. You'll see as they grow, every piston's chained together. So what happens if one gets grown in the same tick? Like I said, next time another pumpkin grows, it just breaks all of them, pushes them onto the land, and we get our collection right here. So to expand it, it's actually really easy. Just need another piston here facing back. So you're going to skip this space. You need a one block gap in between the expansion with one repeater over top, and that's it. Now anything that grows on either of these sides triggers the whole system. So super easy, it's infinitely expandable lengthwise. Now, it's not very efficient because we've only got one block of growth. We can actually mirror this on the opposite side to have an extra block of growth here with another bud chain on the other side, giving you 2 blocks of available growth per stem. There's no diagonal stems, so there's no penalties. What I mean by that is, let's just talk about how these things grow to begin with. A single stem can grow in one of 4 places. On its horizontal axes. So this will do a check to grow a pumpkin, and it's going to choose one of the 4 available spots. It's actually going to choose one of the 4 spots, whether it's available or not. And I think that's a pretty that's a distinction that's required, because what will happen is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to grow, and I want to grow here, and it'll grow as long as it's available. Now, if it says I want to grow and I want to grow here, it's not going to then default to one of the other open spots. It's going to say I can't grow, and it's going to skip that growth. So the less spots you have open, the slower your pumpkin production is going to be. So right now, this is at 100% efficiency because it's got all 4 spots open. Anytime it wants to do a growth check, it's going to grow. So we're going to say 1 stem for 100% efficiency in a 3x3 space. This pattern here will only be able to grow on 2 of its checks. So it's 50% efficient, but because we can put them in a row beside each other in the same space, we get 3 stems with 50% efficiency. So this 3x3 space is 150% efficient compared to this space at 100% efficient. And yes, you could put diagonals in, but this gets you penalties. You cannot have a stem of the same type on the diagonal and receive the same growth. I think it's just with how the game was designed. I'll create a link to the page that explains this a little bit more in depth, but this does not make this more efficient than this design here. You could put melons in here. So in Ilmango's video that he did with his observer farm at the 9x9, you have to go melon, pumpkin, melon, and then you're not getting the penalties for the diagonal placement. So it would have to be melon, melon, pumpkin, melon, melon. And even still, you'd have to expand your space so you're not necessarily more efficient than something like this. So why is this setup important? Well, because then we can create a bud chain on either side of this. So if a pumpkin grows here or here, we can break it into the center. And I've got a full design of that scaled up right over here. And I've stacked them on top of each other. So I've got melons all along the top, and I've got pumpkins along the bottom. You could put alternating pumpkin, melon, just in one slice if you want to. But this thing's pretty darn fast. I have to offset each adjacent module, let's call them, by 1 block. Otherwise, these pistons would interfere with the buds and they would just keep firing back and forth. So we kind of have to wave it a little bit, but works out just fine. Still very space efficient. The pumpkins grow faster when the farmland is hydrated. So we put 1 block of water in the middle of the line. So I've only got I've got a 9 block line here, or a 15 block line, sorry. So the mid space is 8. So if I put it at 8, it'll just flow out as far as possible and hydrate everything on this level and hydrate everything on this level. It's 3 blocks including a single diagonal. So both of those become hydrated by 1 source block. Both of these become hydrated with 1 source block. We skip this one, and here, these two, this water for these two, and the same over here. And this thing works pretty fast. So I cleared all of these before starting this video. I've already got a stack of melons in here, probably half a stack in there. That's weird that this one grew that much more. Maybe I didn't actually clear that one. 47. Oh, geez. Yeah, so looks like anywhere from half a stack to a stack and a half. Pumpkins will probably be about a half stack each. Stack, half stack, half stack. Yeah, over time they kind of even out to what they're producing. I would put some sort of light source in here just in case, because the ones that are in the middle are not going to get as much light. So you could actually put shroom lights every other couple blocks in here. I just stuck it in the center for now because I've got enough light surrounding everything. But that's how it works. The backside is just a bunch of these individual triggers. So each row is triggered from a single pumpkin growth. So anything that grows here, this whole row will trigger, and this will not. So for every trigger, it's handling its own row. You could probably have 1 trigger that handles the whole thing, but then you're firing every single piston in here anytime 1 pumpkin grows, and it gets loud. So you can see every time something's growing across each of these farms, these bud triggers are going to pump out the back. And nothing's interfering with another slice. Anyway, that's my pumpkin or melon budded farm. Again, this will not work in Bedrock. There's no budding or quasi connectivity in Bedrock, in Bedrock, Bugrock, whatever you want to call it. So this design will not work. This is a Java only edition. Um, Bedrock players, there's a lot of sources you can take a look at to find other farming methods, but what I'm doing is specifically for Java. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this is useful for early game farming, even late game farming. It produces quite a bit. You can use this for a food source. You can use it for a composting source to get a bunch of bone meal. You're getting a lot of melons out of this, so you could get quite a bit of bone meal by flowing them into a composter. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks again, YouTube, and have a great day.